2019, the long-winded debate of whether or not marijuana use should be legalized throughout the country was finally answered. Marijuana was removed from the long list of Schedule 1 drugs, and it was legalized throughout the entire country. Realistically, this only gave the states the ability to legalize marijuana or to keep it the same, which most of them did. So most of them still remain marijuana use illegal. Due to the widespread use of marijuana throughout the country, we do have to ask ourselves, did we make the right choice? And the answer is yes. The three areas today that we're going to look at to explain why this was the right answer are the crime rates after the legalization of marijuana, the medical use of marijuana, and then lastly, the business behind the marijuana industry. As for crime, we're going to look at the spillover effects, meaning the areas nearby of where marijuana was legalized, and see the change in crime rates. And then we're going to look directly at the places that legalize marijuana. And the reason we're going to look at crime in the first place is because the biggest opponents of legalization of marijuana were highly afraid that the crime rates were just going to spike to a very, very high number. So according to the Targeted News Service in 2019, marijuana use and marijuana legalization did not actually cause an increase in crime in the neighboring cities or counties or even states. There was no real huge increase in crime at all, actually, throughout the entire country of places that legalized or anywhere near them. So we find that there is no evidence to say that the crime rates are jumping up with the legalization of marijuana. Next, we're going to look at the crime change within the places that actually legalized it. So two of the first places that legalized marijuana were Washington and Colorado. And yet, these states saw no long-term effects of legalizing marijuana. The crime rates, again, did not change all that much. Sure, they had like a slight increase, but then they had a decrease to below where it was prior to the marijuana legalization. Therefore, it is quite evident that marijuana legalization is not going to raise the crime rates. Next, we're going to look at the medical uses of marijuana throughout the country, meaning how fast some of the colleges are accepting the use of marijuana medically and how fast they're adapting to that. And then we're going to look at some programs that are offered that are actually creating a great service for some people within the country. So first, we're going to look at the U.S. Federal News Service in 2019, explaining that the University of Maryland, Baltimore is already offering courses and even a master's degree in the use of medical marijuana. It just comes to show how important it is to educate our youth and the people that are coming into the industry of how useful these things are going to be in the future. So this just shows how far ahead of the curve certain places are and how fast they're moving to make sure we're doing this correctly, as opposed to just kind of guessing. Next, we're going to look at some medical marijuana programs that already exist, and this one happens to be in California. This is a program for veterans to get cannabis care. And for veterans, this, in my opinion, is one of the most important uses of marijuana. Many of the soldiers and the veterans that come home from war end up with severe anxiety of many different kinds and PTSD. And one of the benefits of using marijuana for many people, because it does affect different humans in different ways, but for many people, it helps reduce anxiety. And for people coming home from war that have seen things and experienced things that we as average citizens cannot fully understand, it's a very enticing program to offer to those people that served our country. Next, we're going to look at the marijuana business and the business behind the marijuana industry, which is quite large. So first, we're going to look at some of the difficulties within it, like the brokerages struggling to create any exchange. And then we're also going to look at the fact that it's actually considered an essential business during this pandemic, which is very, very few businesses. So first, we're going to look at an article from the Wall Street Journal, that says investments into marijuana are extremely difficult because of the difference between the federal laws and the state laws. So, although marijuana legalization was a federal law, realistically, all this did was give the option of the states to legalize the use of marijuana, and this is causing a huge disparity of trying to create deals for brokerages who essentially serve as the exchange between companies and help them make deals. Well, a lot of the brokerages aren't even getting involved with the marijuana industry because it's so difficult, and it can easily lose them a lot of money because the difference between laws between states and federal. So the next part is the essential business. This is actually, the marijuana industry is considered an essential business at the moment, according to the Wall Street Journal, because doctors are actually prescribing medical marijuana for many people during the pandemic. Currently, if you're someone who is in a lot of pain, chronic pain, for example, well, you can't always go to the hospital because it's such a high risk to go to the hospital and be around people that may or may not have COVID. So, because doctors are prescribing marijuana for pain, nausea, and muscle spasms, this serves as an alternative and is considered an essential business for many people throughout the entire country. So in conclusion, we have to really ask ourselves, did we make the right choice in legalizing marijuana throughout the entire nation? And the answer is blatantly yes. We looked at the 3 different areas, how it didn't affect crime rates, and that was one of the most cared about and expectations of the legalization of marijuana. Many people thought crime rates would go up, and they didn't. Next, we looked at how useful it is, how colleges are starting to adapt to the medical uses, and there's already programs out there that are helping people every single day. And lastly, we looked at the business behind marijuana, because we needed to check that even under the circumstances that we're in COVID-19 restrictions, these companies are still considered an essential business, as well as it being quite difficult for them to actually get anything done, and yet we've still experienced a lot of improvements even through these difficulties. So, thank you for watching.